Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I am your host, Amanda, and I am so glad you are here. This is a space for dance teachers and anyone interested in teaching dance who is looking for motivation and fresh ideas. As teachers, we spend our days motivating and giving pep talks to our students, and now this podcast is a pep talk just for you. We hope that it helps to ignite new ideas and even work through some deep dance related thoughts before you head into the studio. Thank you for your support, and now let's get into today's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last episode of Dance Teacher Pep Talk 2023. The next time that an episode will launch, it'll be 2024. And I just want to start off today's episode acknowledging just all the excitement that I feel around this podcast and all of you who have shown your support and your listens and your interactions with me on Instagram and everything like that. This has just been bigger than I definitely expected. And yet at the same time, I also still feel like this is still the beginning. And, I started this podcast in August, and I just wanted to take some time to reflect on all that this has been before jumping into today's topic because I think it also may play a role in some inspiration for you. And so when I started this podcast in August, I just like the idea just completely came to me. And it put together two things that I love very much and felt that this would be a great space for my voice to be able to be heard through it. And those two thoughts were dance and self care or self empowerment. And I really just wanted to put that message together because it was something that I wanted. It was something that I was looking for. And I felt like if I was looking for it, somebody out there might be too. And I've just been so blown away by what these 4 months have been because now here we are in December, a little over 4 months later since launching the podcast. And I can't believe it, but we are already over 1,000 listens. And I just like truly did not anticipate that at this time. I'm so appreciative and so grateful for that, of course. But like I said, even though this is growing, I still feel like I'm very much at the beginning of this. And so I appreciate you being here for the beginning of this journey. And I want to just kind of speak on this too, because for me, this could be a serious lesson about going for your dreams. Because when I was starting this podcast in August, I honestly started it because I was sort of in a low place myself. And I was honestly looking for something that almost like filled a space for my own self. Maybe it was a purpose thing, maybe I was like questioning what is my purpose? What am I doing? And just trying to find an outlet for that. And when this idea came through to my mind, it really started off for myself. I thought, oh, this is so great. And it just became so important to me. And I became totally immersed in it. From everything from the production aspect of it to the topics to the discussing to the recording to all of that. And I was actually just listening to a podcast recently, and they were saying something like, when you're beginning something, you have to, especially a podcast, you have to make sure that the message first is for you or that it is serving the purpose for you. And so I truly felt like the podcast was doing that for me. It was serving a purpose for me. It still serves a purpose for me. And it's a space that I can just speak on topics that are really important to me for. And this podcast that, I was listening to, they talked about how it's so important that the content is for yourself and not necessarily to please your audience, because your audience, who then is going to come to your podcast, is the audience who is wanting or needing the material that you're putting out there. So I'm not necessarily putting out topics that the audience is asking for, but the audience is being drawn to these topics for what they are in that sense. And of course, I do absolutely love when people send me DMs and ideas about episodes that they want to hear more on about, because I think it's important, because if somebody else has that feeling, then that also means that there are others out there with that same feeling or thought too. And so of course I love doing that, but it really kind of like tied it together for me for dance too, because when you think about it, When we're putting out our pieces, when we're putting out things like that, this is such an important question for us to ask is if we are putting out pieces and material and things like that for other people, how does it serve us? And, if we're constantly making dances for other people and not necessarily for us, how is that pushing us towards burnout? Is that pushing us towards constantly chasing comparison with others? And so it really, this was a big thought for myself going into today's episode was the reason that I did this podcast was for myself first, and then beautifully it reached others. And the same thing I feel should relay to the work that we're doing with our dance, our choreography, things like that. If it's coming from a soul-led place for ourselves, that is only going to draw more people in. And so it's really important to know what your pillars of your philosophy are, or what is important to you, and why are you doing it for you, and always asking those questions first, because that is going to draw the dancers to you, because it's coming from this space where you are just so exuberantly heart centered in the love of what you do for your career. And I feel that that's only going to extend to the dancers that then step into your classroom. So I don't feel that it's a selfish thing in any way when we do things for ourselves. And that's going to kind of segue right into today's topic. So, we are constantly, as dance teachers, we are giving to our students, we are giving to the studio that we work for, we are giving to the performances that we are choreographing for, and all of that. And so when we take the time to make sure that what we're doing is self led, it is not selfish in any way. And so we really always need to remind ourselves to give back to ourselves so that others can benefit from a full us and not a depleted us. So again, I'm just so beyond grateful for everybody's listens and your support of this podcast, and how this started off as sort of a selfish thing for myself. Yeah, like I said, not selfish, but self led for myself. And the fact that it's drawing in this community is so, so beautiful. And I am very, truly grateful for all of you for listening. So, after this episode, I am going to be taking a break until mid January or so. And I'll still be active from time to time on Instagram. So, make sure you're following at Dance Teacher Pep Talk, because I will include different content and free resources over there from time to time. So, let's get into today's topic. And so, this topic is making the most of your holiday break. I wanted to just start off by kind of going back to my early years of teaching, because in my early years of teaching, I truly would work through my entire break. Like if I wasn't rehearsing, I was music editing, or I was searching for music, or I was planning my classes for the return after the new year, or I was preparing choreography. I didn't really know how to be still, how to find calm. And at times I still struggle with this, though I definitely feel I've gotten better with it. But, if you call it hustle culture or whatnot, I just felt that if I wasn't doing things for my job, I wasn't current enough, or I wasn't with it, or I wasn't doing enough. And, over time, what I noticed is that I got tired. I got burnt. I really truly realized that I was putting others' needs before my own. I was putting others' lives and life plans before my own. And so I really had to stop and think about what is it that I am doing for myself? Because when I was in that mode, my stuff got stale. My energy was low. I didn't have the desire and drive after a while to feel motivated to head into class. And I even found too that at times, the people pleasing side of things, that I really was doing things for the benefit of everybody else other than myself. What was really important for me was trying to find that self-led, heart-led space of what was a yes for me and what was a no, and learning to say no. And it's really interesting because even on vacations, I felt like I couldn't detach. I felt like I couldn't disconnect. And vacation is a break. You're supposed to detach, you're supposed to rejuvenate. And yet I didn't like, and when I'm saying vacation in that sense, it's like if you go away, like going away on vacation, because I know we're talking about the holiday break here. So whether you're at home or not, if you're away, it's like, how do you detach for your mind, for your body, for your soul to rejuvenate? And, if you have rehearsals set up over break, that's okay. I feel like studios definitely tend to take that space and time since studio classes aren't running. And so maybe you're pulling in rehearsals for things, and that's okay. But can you take days that you aren't rehearsing and do something special for you? Or even do nothing at all, like have a do nothing day and just, sit and watch TV, read a book. And that is not in any way lazy because it's so important for us to just have that time to decompress. With the holidays, I mean, this is a personal experience or personal take on it for myself, but holiday parties, family time, things like that. That is not necessarily a break either because it's not a moment for you to be able to sit and quiet yourself. And so, as beautiful and as loving and as connected as they are, I don't necessarily consider holiday parties or family time as a break for yourself. And, at times too, it can even be difficult on yourself because, maybe you just want to eat your Christmas dinner and then take a nap. But if you're at so and so's house, how do you do that? And so I think that it's important to recognize that and also to realize like where within your holidays are you truly giving time to yourself in the way that yourself needs it. And as beautiful as it can be, there are times when you personally may need to step away. And how do you do that? And so finding the time for you is so, so important. And so that's why I feel like I wanted to make this episode because it's a holiday break, it's a vacation, but how much of it are you spending for yourself? And I know that can be hard too if you're a parent, if you have children, things like that. It's hard to take a break. But within that break, could you maybe find someone to watch your children for a little bit or, take them for an hour so that you can have time for yourself where you're giving back to you? I just think it's so, so important. And so, some ideas that I had here too is, during a year that I was struggling, I really had a hard time just because I felt such a monotony in my day to day. I just felt like it was the same day over and over again, the same preparation over and over again. And so I wanted to do something that was going to kind of snap me out of that. And so what I ended up doing is I made monthly calendars with special to-dos each day. So you could take it as buy a calendar, buy a wall calendar and fill it out this way. Or I did this in my phone notes app just because I'm on my phone most often, or like if I'm out and about, like my phone is with me. And so I wrote down each day of the month and a special to do each day. And it didn't have to be big, it didn't, it could be very small, but it was something that kept me finding the life and magic in each of my days. And the way that I thought this up actually was like the concept of, for me as a child, the magic of an advent calendar. Each day you opened up a new window or a new day of the month of December, and there was a little treat hidden behind it or a little chocolate or something like that. And it was just so exciting. And, I even do the same now for my daughter. We have like a little bluey calendar, and she will each day of the month of December, a little toy comes out. And so by the end of the box, we know that it's Christmas Eve, and it's just fun. It's something exciting that is different than the monotony of your day to day. And so I was like, okay, well, how can I do a grown up version of this? And I really found that it kept me looking forward to what was to come. And it was like a surprise, like, oh, look, today I'm supposed to do this. And I just, I even Googled it, like January bucket list ideas or things like that, like things that were just so beyond random to help fill out my calendar. But it really didn't take me so long to fill out. So I wanted to share some of my ideas just in case maybe if you want to try this. Here were some that I had. So for the month of December, a couple of days here that I have listed is cook a new recipe. So that's one day. Find a new holiday or winter songs playlist to listen to. Go and see the Christmas lights. And nowadays, there's so many different events around where you can drive through these Christmas lights or go to this place and walk through this exhibit of lights and things like that. So you can even do that. Get a fancy hot chocolate. download some winter Christmas books onto my Nook, which was my Nook at the time, a Kindle. Clean and purge the house of clutter to prepare for a fresh new slate, new year. That to me, completely honestly, would take more than just one day. So that could be a week if you want it to be. Set intentions for the new year and read your intentions from last year to reflect. And then for the month of January, since we're heading into January after this, here were some thoughts. Go for a walk after snowfall. Begin a workout challenge. Have a date night. Bring a special tea or coffee to work. Go on an adventure. Start a new TV series. Have a self care spa night. Face mask, all the works. Take a yoga class. Get new books from the library. Have a movie night. So as you can see, these are just like so random, so many different things, but having one each day was just an exciting little thing to look forward to. And if you have children or if you have a significant other, this might be so fun to do together because the excitement of having something on the calendar that you're looking forward to, it can help just a normal day to seem even more. So you have your normal day today, but then you know that outside of it, you have these beautiful life experiences that you are taking part in. And maybe if you're doing it as a family calendar, maybe you have it listed up on the wall so that everybody in the house can see and they know that what each day has is something really special, even if it's a small thing that day. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention about how to make your holiday break the best it can be is taking some time to do some reflection before beginning a new year. Last week on Instagram, I posted an end of year wrap up to help reflect with your students. But I think it is so important that we also do some reflection for ourselves. I personally, I don't want to look back at the year and see like, wow, it's already over and I didn't accomplish what I wanted. So some ways that I reflect as a dance teacher is, I take a look at where I'm at, what needs to change, what is working well, where and how am I still needing to work towards certain goals that I've set for myself and for my students. But this is something that I do even as a personal tool. And there are some people that I follow on Instagram and podcasts that I listen to that really do beautiful end of year ritual or like intention setting episodes that I absolutely love. And, you sit with your journal and you listen through to them and they give, just different prompts or different thoughts. And, sometimes they may pull you to what is your word of the year that you want to embody for your year ahead? What do you want 2024 to represent for you? And so I love doing that for my personal life. But I feel like it would be such a special add if we do that also for our dance teaching life. And, dance teaching is our career, but it's also a passion for us. I take my personal life seriously, I take my personal goals seriously, but I'm passionate about my own personal life, but I feel so similarly to dance teaching because I feel that it's such a huge part of me. And so it is important for me to take the time to reflect and see what is it that is going on for me in this past year and what might bring new ideas or new inspiration into my next year. A quote that I posted along with the Instagram post about your end of year wrap up is a quote that I have always loved because it's something that I always feel is like really poignant and like felt. But it's a quote by C.S. Lewis. And the quote is, "Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different?" And I say this to my dancers a lot. I actually use this quote so often in my life because so many dancers, they come in for their first solo and they're so nervous or they're like working up, how is this going to be? Like, what is it going to be like on stage? And just even the movement that goes into it, like the level at which they are learning the movement. And I say, this right now, this moment that you're having, you're feeling so nervous, but a few years from now, you're going to look back and the way that you feel about this solo now is going to be so different. And it's even funny too, like when they like, dancers will look back and they'll watch their recital video or whatnot, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe that I did this. And I thought I was doing it so full out and I thought I looked so great. And here I am flopping around, blah, 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 or like whatever. And it's like, Yeah, but that's your growth. And like in the midst of it, you are not necessarily noticing how big of the changes are that you're making as you're growing and learning. But then when you look back a year from now, 2 years from now, it's amazing how much growth there is. And same goes for us. I look at works that I started, choreography wise in the beginning of my career and to now it's just like mind boggling to me. It looks like a totally different person. Like that was somebody else's work, not my own. And it's just so interesting. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's a growth thing. So I don't look back and ever think like, wow, that was bad choreography. I think back and I think like, wow, that was me at that stage and that was who I was defining in that moment. And now look at how much it has changed. So I look at it more as a change. But yeah, that's a quote that I come back to so often. I even think I most likely choreographed a dance about it. Um, it's just been so eye-opening. I mean, even just how I was reflecting in the beginning of this episode about this podcast. I started this in August, and 4 months later, this feels so different to me. Like it seems so different. I remember how it was like beginning it, putting the intro track together, putting, different topics and ideas. And I had a list like pages long of topic ideas. And, I'm still working through those topics. But it's just really amazing how when you put yourself out there and you do that, it's like, look at what happens. And so, if you have certain dreams or certain goals or things that you're really wanting to make happen in whether it's your dance life or your home life, your personal life, or anything like that, take that jump, take that step. Because if I didn't take the steps to get to where I am right now, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And so the same can apply for so many things in your life. So, with today's episode, let's really take this time during our holiday break and focus a little bit more on ourselves and focus a little bit more into what it is that we're needing. What it is that we're needing to change, what it is that we're needing to add, what it is that we're needing to take out. Because as I mentioned, what is so important to me is not only my love for dance teaching, but also my love for self empowerment and self connection and mindfulness. And so that is the mission of this podcast, and it will continue to be. So if you have a dream or a big goal or ideas of things that you want to do, let's really put those into action and make 2024 a special one, not just for our students, but for ourselves. And, in fact, like I said in the beginning, I think that we should come first because if we're coming first and we're putting ourselves first and our needs first, it's not selfish because others are then going to be able to take from the fullest and best us. And we are going to be able to give so much to our students. So, if you feel the urge to work this break, take maybe a little bit of time. Maybe carve out a special day where you're like, this is going to be my work day, or, put some time aside because, yeah, we may need to do some stuff. But how can we take this time also to reflect on our year, to bring special moments into our days, and to just really reconnect with ourselves? Because when we do that, big changes will happen. And that is a part of our growth too, is the taking the time to reflect, the taking the time to plan and set intentions for what it is that's to come for you. And so I hope that you all have an amazing end of your 2023 year and that you have a beautiful holiday season. I'm so excited to be back in January, probably mid January. But don't forget to follow us on the podcast platform that you listen to most because you'll get notifications when I'm back. And I can't wait to discuss all the many topics that I have ahead of us. Where I am, January through April-ish is a big competition season. I don't think I'm going to be doing like all competition focused podcast episodes. However, I kind of feel like that'll come up from time to time. We're also preparing for our recitals and all of our end of year closeouts in May and June. So I know that it seems far off, but hey, we're already at the end of December and we started this podcast at the beginning of the dance year. So it really goes by so fast. So make sure you're taking the time for yourself, taking the time for your family, and taking the time for what is important to you. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Dance Teacher Pep Talk. I want to thank you all so, so much again. Like I said, I am so unbelievably grateful for your listens and for your follows of this podcast. And I can't wait to check in with you in 2024. Happy New Year, everybody.